Hello and welcome to my channel again. Those are my cats eating their breakfast. Today I want to talk to you about this book, The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern, also known as the best book ever in the entire history of the universe, bar none, #1, A++++++, winner supremo besto booko. So this book is a 5-star book on a logarithmic scale, where every other book ever written is on a linear scale. That's how good this book is. And I know that not every person in the universe is going to agree with my opinion. I did see a few 1-star reviews on Goodreads, but you will not sway me. This is the best book I've ever read. So let's get into it. I actually have another Erin Morgenstern book sitting on my shelf, The Night Circus, which was recommended to me by Goodreads based on what I like to read, but I haven't actually even cracked it open yet. Now, after reading this, you can bet your sweet bippy I will be reading that next very soon. But what drew me to this was actually the description. The blurb in the front cover, which is a very beautiful front cover, talks about a boy or a young man, Zachary Ezra Rollins. He's an avid reader and he's going through the stacks of his university library, and he just sort of picks out books every once in a while, reads a few pages, decides if he likes them, and he's doing that and he finds a book of stories, and one of the stories in the book is a story that happened to him. It's a story about him when he was a kid. So when I read that, I was like, that sounds really good. I have got to read that. I didn't read much more of the blurb because I like to be a little bit in the dark. I find sometimes book covers reveal just a little too much, but this book is much more than what's on the dust jacket. This book incorporates story after story in order to tell the main story, which when done not well can be really annoying. Those book within a book, story within a stories can be so annoying to read. I think everybody knows what I'm talking about. But this one, every single story is written with Erin Morgenstern's style. Now, I watched an interview with Erin Morgenstern talking about this book, and The Night Circus was published in 2011, so it's been 8 years since she's published, and you can tell 8 years of care went into this book. Everything is crafted, and you can tell she has gone over everything over and over and really made it the best she can. There is not a stray sentence in this book. Every sentence is there for a reason, and it adds to the story, which I think is so important. And especially when you get a nice long book like this, it can be difficult. You usually have a whole bunch of pap. Let's talk about Erin Morgenstern's writing style, and this is what really brings the book to life. Erin Morgenstern is a very descriptive writer, and if you like that kind of book, which I do, I love, then this is for you. What I like, I don't want to hear about how somebody walked on the beach. I want to hear about how it felt, how the air blew against their hair and ruffled it and tickled it on their neck. I want to smell what they smelled, the sea air and the salt of the air clinging to their nose and feeling it on their face. I want to feel the sand in their toes as they dig in and the grains come up in between their toes. That's what I want to know about. I don't care if they walked on the beach. Erin Morgenstern will take you to that place. She will set it up and describe it and make it so real and immerse you. You will be taken away. You open the pages of this book and you are somewhere else. Let's talk a little bit about the story. So like I said, there's a lot of stories within stories, and I don't want to really spoil anything for you if you haven't read it. But basically, Zachary, our main character, finds this book in the library. This is the very early pages, so this is not spoiler. The book contains a story from his childhood where he had found a door painted on a wall and it was a very realistic looking door. And he was, I don't know, maybe around 10 years old or so when he found this first door, and he was too timid to try to open it. And it says that he would not find the Starless Sea yet. So now that he's older and he's found this book, he realizes that there's more to it. There was more to this door when he was young that he didn't go through. And the Starless Sea is part of an underground cave system, labyrinth type. It's hard to describe. Imagine, if you will, an ant colony and how they dig down and dig out their living space. This is how I picture the underground library. And Erin Morgenstern, sometimes she calls it a library, sometimes she says it's not a library, it's a place with books, a place with stories, but I think for ease of talking, I'm gonna call it the underground library. But it's a huge space. It's not just somebody's basement, and the Starless Sea is somewhere in there, and Zachary is basically looking for it. We have a cast of several wonderful characters, and we get to know them, and we get to know a little bit more about their stories within the story. And each one is very interesting. Nobody has a boring subplot. There's never a part where I wanted to skip over it because I was like, okay, this is irrelevant to the story. All of the stories within the story add to the story. If there was something that didn't add to the story, she edited it out. Let's talk a little bit now about the physical book. This cover is beautiful. The book itself is beautiful. And you will see the bee, the key, the sword, which play really prominently in the story. The end papers are very beautiful. And then each chapter, they really put a lot of thought into all of the visuals in this book. So all of the chapters, there's no chapter numbers, but they are all headed. And as you can see, they look really pretty. And every page number has this little doodad there. So a lot of thought has gone into the visual of this book, and I did notice just flipping through the Night Circus that it's similar. So the Night Circus has this very circusy feeling and has chapter heading pages that are really neat looking, but it's not quite as beautiful as the other one. This is a book that you can keep on your shelf forever because it's just so pretty, and you should be reading it every day for the rest of your life. The book itself is sort of about the love of books and the love of stories, and I think you can see that even just the physical construction of the book, they've put that love into it. So I thought that was a really, really nice touch, and for a book that they sell for 40% off at Chapters, it wasn't all that expensive compared to other books that I have purchased. Okay, I forget it, it's expensive. The book is $36.95 regular price at Chapters Canadian, so never mind, it's not cheap. But I did get it for 40% off. I think one of the main criticisms for this book from what I looked at in those 1-star reviews on Goodreads is that it is very confusing, and it's meant to be that way. It's meant to be mysterious and bring up more questions as you are reading the book. The book has a very strong fantasy and fairy tale feel to it, where there is magic. It's not overdone magic, it's not laser beams coming out of your fingers magic, but there's a magical feel to it, and there is some magical elements that you don't understand. It's a lot of symbolism that you have to really think about, and what is the meaning behind this story, and why is this particular story included, and what is this mouse supposed to represent in the story? And I like that, because when there are questions like that with symbolism, you can interpret it a bunch of different ways, and I don't think there ever really is a right way. I feel like Erin Morgenstern would agree that there is some interpretation that needs to be made, and different people are going to get different things out of this book. And I really enjoy that kind of feeling when I'm reading a book. But if you like your plot to be A, B, C, here it is, everything really well explained and wrapped up at the end, then this is not going to be a book that you will enjoy. This book is, in the grand scheme, about renewal and the endurance of stories, and how, although stories might end, there's always more to get from them, and you can always go back to the same stories over and over again, and the retelling of stories in different ways. How many times has Hamlet been retold in different interpretations? That is what I got out of this book. It doesn't say anything about Hamlet, don't get me wrong. Hamlet is not in this book, but she does get to that like core feeling of renewal of stories and the endurance of stories and their universal appeal to people. Every society since the beginning of time, since the beginning of humanity, has told stories and shared stories, and they have similar elements. And I think this book captures that really beautifully, but it doesn't spoon feed it to you. Now, the book is not all just symbols and keys and bees and swords and hearts. There is a definite plot to it, and it does move along. And I think the pacing was really good. The back half maybe gets a little bit more convoluted and is definitely a little bit more confusing, but I still felt that the story moved along, and I really liked the resolution at the end. So if you didn't get out of this yet, I recommend this book. I totally think you should read it. I think everybody should read it. Unless, like I said, you're one of those people who does not like symbolism in their books, this one you won't like. But everybody else, I really think a lot of people will really like this book. Thank you so much for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Starless Sea, especially if you agreed with me. Comment down below. I'm just kidding. If you hated it, I'd like to know why you hated it as well. Just let's get some discussion going.